Well, Braith, it's fantastic to have you here, finally. I know you've had a bit of a break, but, mate, you've had a massive career. 288 games in the NRL. You played 110 games for the Bulldogs, 147 for the Sydney Roosters, and 31 for the West Tigers. You then represented Australia with 4 games, New South Wales 10, New South Wales City 7, and your own country, being Greece, for 1 game, which we can discuss. But huge career, massive respect for you as a journalist, as a player. But I want to start with NRL 360. I'm a huge fan of NRL 360. I watch it all the time.
Mate.
My wife goes off at me. She goes, "You
Don't they
keep
all?
playing." Oh, mate.
I get that a lot. The wives are always like, "You got this on again? Come on."
Yeah. She goes, "Don't you see Braith enough at the gym?" I go, "Yeah, I do, but fuck, I just want to see what they've got to say."
Yeah.
But when I look at your career as a journalist, and that's why I want to start first, because I know you're passionate about it. When you look at your career as a journalist, Ben Ikin leaves, right? He was huge. When I heard it, I go, who's going to fill his shoes?
So did I.
Right? And Yvonne Sampson came on.
Yeah.
I didn't, if I was to be honest, it wasn't a big hit. And then, there was murmurs out there that you were going to take the chair. And, like for me, when I look at my life, I go, every time I go to that next level, I go, fuck, am I going to be able to do this? What was it like for you going to that next level? Because you're on TV almost every night, but then NRL 360, which is the biggest show. What's the pressure like?
Yeah, it was huge because, like you said, they were big shoes to fill. I'd watch the show myself, like you, and Ben Ikin was great at the host job. And then when he stepped down, they obviously moved on in there, and then she fell pregnant, and there was an opportunity there for someone to step into the seat. It's hard because you know that you're going to be judged by the person that was there before you, and Ikin was always the one. He was the original with Paul Kent, and did it for so long, and he left. It wasn't like he got sacked or stepped down. Well, he stepped down, but it was his decision. So, everyone's going to kind of compare you to him, but my first thought going back was, I want the job, but I don't think they're going to ask me because I don't think I was actually the first pick. Because I just felt, and now looking back at it, like I always wanted to be a host, and there's not many guys who in all of in Australia, or there's probably more over in the States, that play a full career and then go into hosting. Like you see the expert opinion, all the expert opinion on Nine even and Fox and over in the States, ESPN, all those, but it's very rare to play and then host, and that was a challenge, right? So I've always wanted to be a host, and I kind of dipped my toes in and was hosting a couple of coverages throughout the year, but not to the extent of 360 or the regularity or but I was obsessed with doing it. So in my own mind, I knew I could do it, and I was confident I could do it, but until you kind of get that call up, and until you sit there and the bright lights turn on and it's 3, 2, 1, and you're going, fuck. Because the first line is, hello and welcome to NRL 360, rugby league from every angle. It's a simple line.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, don't stuff that. Like, it's a simple line that is the start of the show, but I was so nervous I'd get that wrong. So, it was a huge honour, but scary, and I didn't really know how I would go, but I was confident, like quietly. But you just don't know until it starts,
Because they tried a few people out. I remember they tried a few hosts out, and when I was watching, I go, they don't have it. They don't have it. And then I kind of thought, Braith's got to be the next person, right? But then when I watched it the first time, I go, fuck, he's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And obviously, how many episodes do you think it took you to get comfortable?
Yeah, so I think that the transition there, and you mentioned Vonnie before, I think what's important to this show is that you have an ex-player on there, because then the more confident you get at being the host and the presenter, you can talk on behalf of the players, and you've been there and done it, so you've got more authority, and you can speak with conviction. I think, what the hard thing without having an ex-player there is that you've got to be strong, and you've got to take on the journalists and it's hard to do if you haven't actually experienced it. So that's just addressing that. I think that's why it works better with an ex-player. My first few episodes were really, I've gone from not hosting hardly anything to it is the number one show in rugby league. Like it's the number one news show. It sets the agenda for the week through the papers and every other show. Whether you like it or not, it does.
I agree with that.
It just
I totally
does.
agree.
So I knew the pressure in the eyes, but I'm sitting there like going back again, and I've got the big boss come down. He's in my ear. Producers in the other ear. You've got to control the lunatics, you know what I mean? the journos. And you've got to throw to ads, promos. There's a lot to it. Yeah. So it was always going to take me a while to I suppose, bring my own personality and be natural, because I was so concerned about just getting, as I said, the first line right, let alone starting a conversation, throwing to an ad break or reading the auto cue. So obviously it was going to take me a while. It took me probably 3 or 4 months really to bring out my own personality, get used to the format, get used to the schedule, get used to the producer in my ear, get used to the timings. It's a live show. So everything you say goes around the world. So you know, I'm a swearer. You know, all those things, which, you know, I'm amazed I've never swore, touch wood.
But you probably will next episode.
You know, you've jinxed me. But like, you know, like there's so much that goes to it. So once you get to the point where I'm a host, I'm comfortable. Now I can really bring my own personality. I can push back on the journos. I can have a laugh, G up. You know, and I know when I've got to hit my times. So there's a lot to hosting a TV show, especially a news live. You know, it's intense, and so it took me a few months, and it was always going to. But yeah, it eventually got there.
So you're on for an hour, so you got to cover all the topics, right? Then you got all the cues. It's like almost a game, right?
It is. Like, you know, people are surprised because, you know, no one really knows that, you know, you work an hour a day, right? And what do you do these days? I work on NRL 360, or I'm like, no.
Fucking mate.
I'm in there at 10:30 every morning, and I get home at 8:30 at night. You know, Monday to Wednesday, and I do the Sunday footy broadcast as well. So I don't need to be in there at 10:30. Probably I could push it back to midday, but that's my schedule. It's my pre-game routine. You know, it's what I do, because, like I said, it's so much pressure and it's live. You need to know everything. And so, and I don't want to know if I'm going to critique a player or a coach or a CEO. I need to know everything about the situation. I need to know, I need to ring players or speak to the club or hear the journos. The journos do so much research, and they speak to everyone at the clubs, and they get information that's incredible. What I learned is that there are a lot of rats at the clubs. A lot of people, a lot of self-interest, and they'll throw anyone under the bus to protect themselves. So the amount of information we get from people you would never expect about their own people is crazy. So I like to be around all of that, know the facts, and know what the journos are going to come with, because the journos have got hard-hitting stories that I don't always agree with, but I want to know the facts, so that if they come at me and I can go, no, that's wrong, blah, blah. I spoke to, because if I'm in there, because the journos are in with me and they ring up all day and they're toing and froing with stories, new stories are breaking by the hour, and I want to know what they're going to say, how they're going to, and I'm like the silent assassin in there, so I say nothing all day. I just listen, and they get shocked because I don't tell them anything, and they think I'm just going to agree with them. And I go, no, hang on, and I hit them with facts, and they're not ready for it. So it adds to the theatre of the show, because you want the show to be authentic, you want it to be genuine opinions, and you want it to be argumentative if it is. If you don't agree with someone, well, why? Because you want it to feel like the people at home are there, or it's just you and your mates on your couch talking about the footy and not agreeing or having a certain opinion on things. So it's got to be genuine, and that's what I try to make it. But it's a long day, it's a long prep, but it's just got to be. It's like everything, like what you do with the gym, and and all your business and podcast, you've got to put the time and effort in.
Yeah.
Because obviously the product's going to be better, right, at the end of the day. And that's what I think with the show. The more I'm there, the more time and effort I put in, the harder I work, the better the results. And that's kind of what's happened there.
And probably on the days off, you probably don't have days off, but you're thinking about the show.
I don't stop thinking.
You're thinking about the show. You're thinking about where am I going to get the information from.
Yeah.
You obviously got, everyone loves Buzz. I love him or hate him, right?
Well,
but he's
either
funny,
way,
right?
he's like a cartoon character.
But did you think back when you were playing that there was that many so-called, rats, right? Not, they're not rats, but did you think that there was people in the club that were also doing that with the journos back then? No.
You're young and naive, but so you don't think that people would do that, but I understand why they do it too, because it is what it is. It's dog eat dog world.
Yeah. A lot of self-interest.
A lot of self-interest. But what I did, I suppose, what you learn as a player, you get to sort of your 25, 26, 27, you cop it from the journos, the criticism and from fans, and you get to a point where you go, you know what, I don't give a shit what they say, I don't give a shit what they write, it's holding me back. If you worry about that and you really focus on that, it's going to get you nowhere. And you can see that with players these days, with mental health, and you're better off not reading any of it. I say, if you're a player, don't watch our show, because our show's for the fans. Our show's critiquing and also putting these guys on pedestals, but it's more for the fans. It's giving information to the fans that they cannot get anywhere else, and it's not necessarily healthy for a player to watch, because you're going to be exposed on the show at some point. As I said, you're going to be put on a pedestal, but you're going to be exposed. And if you can't handle that, don't watch it. Don't read the papers, because when you're a professional athlete these days, and it's all throughout the world, you earn good money, but you're going to be critiqued, good or bad.
Yeah.
And you need to. That's the biggest challenge for athletes, is how do they respond to that criticism, or, you need to learn that it's going to happen, accept it, and you'll be better off for it physically, mentally, and professionally as you sort of evolve. And that's what I tell my players with the management stuff. Is like, mate, you got to get used to being criticised or critiqued, or because that's the reality. And if you can't deal with that throughout your career, you're not going to get anywhere. And I'm the same. Like you said it.
You get beaten up.
Hammered. But I don't see any of it. See, people say, "Oh, what do you think?" I don't see it. I don't read it. It doesn't bother me. All that bothers me is what my boss says to me, and what my mum and my best mate say to me. That's all. I don't care what fucking Joe Blow's got to say, because he's not paying my bills, and he's not going to make me better. Yeah. So and I say that again to people watching the podcast or whatever. You got to surround yourself with people that you trust and you love, that will tell you the truth. Good or bad. You want to hear the bad. Like, if you need to be better at something, you want to hear it, but you hear it from the people that you respect, right? And that's kind of, that's only going to make you better.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, because, like even in business, I make decisions. Some work out and some don't, but I own the ones that don't work out. But I think the more times you're at bat and you're hitting the ball or you're missing the ball, at least you're having a go.
That's right.
And you're in the game. And this kind of takes me to the next question. And we were talking about some of the players and the pressure they're under. You're managing Cameron Munster, probably the top player in the game. One week he's the king, and the next week he's down the bottom. Yeah. Not down the bottom.
No, but
not down the bottom.
But not where he was.
If he does something so minuscule or so small, it's massive.
Yep.
So the bigger you are, and the smaller the issue that comes out, you've got to aim up to that, right?
Yeah.
And for you being on the footy show on NRL 360, is it hard to separate the two? Because you got the best player in the game.
It's when I sign the players, and I just said then, the biggest thing that I think a lot of players that I experience playing with, and even I was with all the Bulldogs boys last night, Willie Mason, Willie Tonga, Rennie Matua. You're in this bubble, so people don't tell you the truth, and you kind of you look back and you have regrets, right, about certain things, and you can learn the hard way. I tell these players straight away, if you come with me, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. You read the wrong person. And I've only got a small group, that's all I want, because I want them to be like my own. But they know I work on NRL 360. If you fuck up or you don't play well and I've got to talk about you, mate, I'm going to tell the truth. I can't show any bias. I really can't. And people will always still say it because it's an easy sort of thing to say, oh, he manages him, it's bias. Like the whole negotiation last year with Cameron.
That went off its head.
Or that was tough. That was probably because I didn't know I was going to be hosting 360, and then, I signed a player that was the number one player in the game off contract, and we got offered the highest contract in the history of the game. So I'm having to deal with that throughout the year. That was hard because I had to show a level of respect and confidentiality to my client. But in saying that, no one would have had the access that 360 had to me either. Yes. So I was given more than what they usually would have got. But because I was there, they wanted to hit me up and I'd say to Kenny and that, come on guys, mate, just let me have the night off. But it was such a big topic. But at the same time, I respected him. I gave a little without giving too much. But, it's even like Lockie Elias this year, he's a client of mine, halfback for the South, and they struggled. And he got hammered, all year. And I'd say to Lockie and his dad, listen, I'm on the show tonight and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say you're struggling and you got to be better and it's not good enough. And I can't sit there because that's not me. And that's why I'm in that chair, because I am honest and I tell it how it is. I can't be honest, tell it how it is. But my client, no. You can't do that. People see straight through that shit, Yeah. So I pride myself on that. It is hard. But, if you're going to be authentic and, people want to trust and believe in the show and you can't fool anyone.
Yeah.
You got to tell it how it is. And my clients, straight up, I tell them that. And you have to be. If I'm going to sit there and critique other agents and players for what their actions are, man, I've got to be the same on myself and my players.
Yeah.
You can't get away with that.
And it's a fine line, right? It's hard. Yeah. It's hard. And people, I think people don't understand this part about you, and I'm glad you came on, because I think it's important for people to understand that there's going to be an element of politics in everything. There has to be. Yeah. Like, and people that think there isn't, it's a fine line.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to hurt Lockie as well.
Yeah.
But you want to be honest with him, and you want to be transparent with him. And then, during that process, obviously Latrell's having an uncomfortable season, right? He's not aiming up. And then now it's all about Latrell. So, it becomes about Lockie, then it becomes about Latrell.
That's a good one you bring up, Latrell. That was an interesting one, because I'll tell you the story with that. Latrell, I think, is one of the best players in the game. And
100%.
Without shadow of a doubt. I think he's a machine. And I think he can win South a premiership. And up until round 11, they were coming first.
That's right.
And the amount, I reckon, 8 out of those 11 episodes of 360, we do 3 a week. I'd say 15 episodes. I waxed lyrical and just praised how amazing he was, We had him front and centre on the Fox promos. He's an ambassador of Fox League. He gets paid good money, and he's one of the highest paid players in the game. And he's the heart and soul of South Sydney. So I'm watching and I'm praising and I'm doing all that. And then they fall off a cliff the back end of the year. Now, I watch every game religiously, and even on a Monday when I go into work, I have every game on my monitor. So I watch, and I've played 16 years at the highest. Yeah. So I can watch and read a game, and I know what's going on at clubs, and they were all struggling. There's no doubt about that. It wasn't just Latrell. It wasn't singling him out at all. But there become a game at the end of the year against Newcastle that just looked wrong to me. You know, I'm like, come on, man. Like, you are the heart and soul of this club. You're their leader. They look to you. Yes, the other guys are struggling, but you're the barometer, you know? And no one was really calling it out. And that's why I'm in this seat again, right? And I had footage from weeks of it. And this is not being disrespectful. This is what I do. I do it with every other player. And I've called out heaps of players, not calling them out. I'm just, every now and then I've got to
stating the obvious.
Stating the obvious. So I'd watched a lot, and I wasn't sure whether to pull the trigger on it, because I'm thinking people are going to come at me and blah, blah, blah.
You live in the area.
I live in the area. But you know what? That's why I do what I do, because I call it how I see it, and that's why I'm in the seat. So I'm watching this game, and I'm on the weekend, and I'm watching his movements, and I'm just going, no. And then I'd seen a lot, leading up to that too. And I had the footage there. I didn't cut it all up. I just did a couple. I had more. And the journo started coming at me, but I just had it sitting there. And the journo, and I said to the producer, if the journo comes at me when I question it, I want to go to the footage. I didn't know whether I was going to do it or not. Anyway, the journo's going at me, and I go, all right, Reedy. I think it was Reedy. I said, well, let's have a look, mate. And I just thought, bang, you know? And we looked at it, and it was quite confronting, right? But again, if you want to take the accolades and again, I know I hate saying it, but when you're one of the highest paid players, you're the leader of the club, you're the barometer, you get paid by Fox, and you're happy to take all the accolades and the success and what comes with
pats
being
on the
well,
back.
the pats on the back. Which I got hammered pillar to post from the second I started to the end of my career. Like you get, as I go back to this, you get critiqued.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. There's a responsibility there as a player.
Well, you copped it at the end of the Bulldogs.
Well, I copped it
as
heaps,
well.
but that's all right. You got to deal with that, right? That's part. I say it's part of the game. So anyway, we showed this footage, and I didn't expect it to be that big of a deal, mind you. I just thought, but bang, 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 it went crazy. Like the show went crazy. It went all over socials because Latrell does cop a hard time when he shouldn't, and he cops the racism, and he's I suppose he cops more than he should. You know what I mean? But it doesn't matter. Like it was something that I believed in, and something that, to be honest with you, after I showed it, I've never had a reaction from so many South fans. They're like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
Like they're actually thanking me, saying, "About time someone had the balls to just call it out." So I put my head on the chopping block a bit. But what disappointed me the most, and I haven't said this to anyone, is that his camp, Latrell's camp, were labeling me a racist, right? Because I showed the footage, which is fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm half Greek.
I
My dad
don't
was
like the
Greek.
race card.
Oh,
I
mate,
don't like it
like,
at all.
This is the thing. If you want to gain respect and you want to end racism, don't call the racism on something like that. So he it's horrible, which it is, and you think you're never going to see the light or get through it all, you know. And then you get to the points at the Bulldogs where, you know, he won 17 games in a row, which was a record.
That was huge that year.
Very confident we're going to win the comp. We got kicked out for salary cap rort. I was the face of that because it was I was a young gun at the time, and I just re-signed, and it was the Oasis project at Liverpool, which they were launching. And unbeknownst to me, the money was coming from the wrong place, and I didn't know that. And they told me the night before the game, they said to me, Braith, mate, there's going to be something in the paper tomorrow, but don't worry about it.
Far out.
And I'm like, sweet. All right, no worries. And I'm a young guy, 19. I think I was 19 or 20. And I'm like, no worries, you know, we're going to win a comp this year, all this sort of stuff. The next day I woke up and I was front page of both the Sydney Morning Herald and the Telegraph, just my face, and cheats. And then we were gone within weeks. And then that was obviously tough. And it was tough being the face of it too, because people just align the face to the headline and it's your fault, fans and that too, you know. So that was hard because I had to work myself back, a bit of respect there. And the club, I mean, we had a really strong team there, which could have won a few premierships, but we just had so much going on there, a lot of dramas, but not through our own sort of fault. You know, a lot of it was, you know, through interesting circumstances. But we, again, the Bulldogs was the best place for me to be after the death of my father, and then, you know, the issues we had to deal with. The Bulldogs was a really old school family. You know, like you talk about training. The first session I ever had there, I was a South Sydney boy, obviously from the eastern suburbs, and I get there, and the trainer goes, "Get on the rower." I'm like, "Yeah, sweet mate." You know, like I've never hardly done a weight before. I was only 16 or 17, and he just called me a soft South pretty boy the whole time, and just broke me into this. He broke me, like he just trained me till I was vomiting in the.
Who was the trainer?
Gary Carden.
Okay.
Billy Johnson.
Billy
Johnson and Gary. They were the two. He was his
Because Billy was crazy.
They were crazy, right? But their sole objective was to break you. And you talk about going to dark places. This builds resilience in you for life. This sort of stuff. And Willie Mason, Rennie Matua, Sonny Bill Williams, Jonathan Thurston, Roy Azatasi, all these guys. Like to this day, I was with them last night. This taught us so much, not only as a player, but just as people, you know, like how to sort of get through really dark times. So their objective was to break you, and they did it to everyone that walked in the door. Because then I had Rennie come in after me, same thing. So what they want to see is what you've got. They want to break you to a point where you're vomiting and you can't move, and you either come back the next day or you don't. If you come back the next day, then you're a Bulldog. If you don't, we don't want you to be here. Wow. So that was the ethos, the mentality. So they would do that to you relentlessly, day after day after day, until you got to a point where you were that fit that you never got tired. And that was the Bulldogs' way, especially back in those days. We'd be 12, 14 points behind and never in doubt of coming back and winning. And we were always the team that come home like a steam train the last 20 because we did the work. Steve Folkes too was one.
Steve Folkes was known.
Fitness freak,
you
know. But that was the way it was. And okay, so going back, all these moments, the Bulldogs was a perfect club for me. But all these moments where I was feeling sorry for myself a lot of the time because I'm thinking, you know, this hasn't happened to everyone else, you know, Dad, this, that. But and I had a few breakdowns along the way, but I got to the point where it just made me so strong, so stoic, and that's why it really helps me even with this job I've got now. You know, you kind of just, as I said at the start, you learn what's most important to you. You know what got you there. You know you can go through anything, and you surround yourself with the right people, and work ethic, mate.
Yeah.
There's no substitute, you know, for hard work. And I'm a hard worker, and I pride myself on that. And I want to work harder than anyone else in the room. That's the way. And I love winning. So you know, I want to win. And so I mean, tough times, but they make you tough.
What you've done really well is you've transitioned from doing, you know, playing rugby league, and you're a great golfer too. We'll get into that, but from playing rugby league, transitioning it to everything that you do.
Yeah.
From a player manager, you're on you know, NRL 360. You've done it extremely well. Most players don't have that ability to transition, even though they've done the hard work.
Yeah.
It seems to me like some people, and correct me if I'm wrong, they just don't have the belief to do the next thing when they've already done something so hard.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think belief's a huge thing?
Belief is I think it's everything. Whenever you have self-doubt or hesitation, it hurts you in all aspects of life. Like you can say that from, trying to execute a business deal to being on a footy field and seeing a gap that will shut within a split second and you miss the opportunity if you hesitate. Like, hesitation's the biggest killer. And that comes down to your belief. When you're flying and you're confident, I think like business and sport, you're unstoppable. But how do you react to something that goes wrong or adversity or, that's the biggest challenge in life. And then once you can find the tools that help you with your reaction to things going wrong more so than right, that's more important than reacting to things going right. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, belief and confidence, I think, for a lot of athletes, because they're so in the bubble. Like they're so in the bubble and they just think it's never going to end. And they don't think about life after footy. If they do, they might to some degree, but not to enough. And you just get complacent. I mean, I think for me, it was always like I was thinking so many steps ahead. Like, what am I going to do after footy? And media was one I thought early 20s and journalism or whatever, presenting and hosting. But, you just you get caught in this bubble. And sometimes these guys, these athletes, and this I would assume would be globally, they get picked up by clubs from local country towns or Queensland so they move away from their families. They lose that support network and they just have the players as their family. And that's only going to really get you by while you're playing with them.
Yeah.
Whereas one thing I always did throughout my career is I had my best mates, who are still my best mates now. I never let go of them and my family. They were my number one. My teammates were never, this may sound, but when I was with them, they were number one. But I separated the two.
Yeah, well.
So a lot of guys these days, I'm not sure about these days, but I know in my era, that was all they had. Whereas I'd go back to my mates, family, dinner, go have a drink with them, go to the movies with them, go play golf. I separated the two. And at the time, I remember the players thinking, he doesn't hang with us as much as everyone else. No, I love yous and I'm here with yous all day, every day. But I think that's a healthy thing to have that separation, that keeps you grounded, focused, and just doesn't make you depend on those guys for everything because they're going to be gone soon. They're not going to be there forever. And I think that's where players...
You need foundational support. Yeah. You need foundational support. That's with anything. I think you got to have your go-to individuals that are going to help you out, and the ones that you trust that have no bias, that you can go, I'm just going to hear the truth here. My mates here are going to say, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. So I think most people have to understand who's your foundation. Look, some people don't have great families. A lot of families are dysfunctional. But then you got to go...
Find a mentor.
Who in the club is someone I would like to be like? Who would I want to emulate? And, that takes me to the next question. Obviously, you went to the Roosters after that. I'm going to go back to the grand final and what that was like. But you go to the Roosters and then you got someone like Nick Politis.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like? You went to the Roosters, you played, I think, 147 games, but then you meet Nick Politis, because Nick Politis pretty much runs everything there, right?
I met Nick first because Ricky Stewart was the Origin coach, and that was a really tough decision because I was a South junior, but South had just come back into the comp, and it was a really tough decision to make. And I kind of wanted to go to South because I was a South man.
Yeah, and George Piggins
is
my
uncle.
Yeah, just you had it tough.
Oh, man. But the Roosters, I was playing Origin, and I wanted to be, I was close with Ricky, and at the time, the Roosters were kind of at a higher level, and I was going to go from playing Origin and my career going that way to going back to South here, which my heart was there, but my head wasn't, because I'm thinking I've got to restart. We've got a new team. We could come last. I could lose my Origin jersey. I want to play for Australia, all that, because that's where I was at.
Yeah.
So all of that sort of combined, I made the decision. Well, the Roosters, so Politis, he was Greek, and he straight away leveraged that, he's a businessman, mate. Come on, Braith, you're Greek, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But he takes me to dinner to Bondi, and we go to this penthouse on the beach. I go up, and James Packer's there, David Gingell's there.
Wow.
Nick and Ricky Stewart were there, private chef, and I'm just going,
What's going on
Bondi
here?
Beach, just there. Like that. I knew what was happening, but I was still loving it. Like you're just young, you're just going, oh, how good. And then they go, Mark Burris and Mark Fennessy, and they just got all these. And this is another reason that the Roosters do it so well. And someone like me was attracted to it because I'm thinking, Nick, Mark, Gingell, these are all guys I can leverage to life after footy. These are guys that can help me get to where I want to get to post footy, which is a mindset that I'd have.
And how old were you then? 23?
23, 24.
Wow. So to have that, that mindset at that age.
And Nick's probably, I'd say, he's definitely one of my mentors, if not still now my mentor. So I speak to him regularly. He loves 360.
Yeah.
And because he's not obsessed, I mean, he's the most passionate guy you'll meet in the game. And it's just unrelenting how much the Roosters mean to him and how much he wants them to be successful and how much, like he's got 500, like he's worth, and he's got hundreds of thousands of dealerships and property, but his number one passion and love ahead of all that is the Roosters. And you can't, whether you love or hate the Roosters or even Nick for that matter because of the power he's had, you got to respect him. Like it's just crazy, but he's good for me. We talk often. A lot of it's about 360 because he's trying to get certain. He watches it and he's got opinions on a lot of things in the game still. And he'll be in Greece on the islands and he'll watch it on his iPad and ring me after the show, like at 6 a.m. or something like that. And I'm like, are you fucking crazy? But no, even to this day, he helps me a lot. So, I wouldn't be where I was without the help of Nick as well. So I value those, and he's a powerful man, but he's got the biggest heart. And I think with Nick sort of like. And you look at it like, but I left the Roosters and it kind of didn't work, but we left
on good terms.
Like we respected it. I wanted a couple of years. He kind of, they were umming and ahhing about the one or whatever, and it just didn't work. But we didn't take it personally, and he still involves me in everything at the club and rings me regularly, and he loves me. So it's a very unique relationship and one that I cherish. Yeah.
Did he see something in you back then? Did he see something in you where he knew you were going to go to that next level? You're going to be a journalist?
Maybe he did because they made me captain pretty straight away, at the time. And I think he just saw something in me and he believed in me. And, I rang him when I did my Fox deal to get advice from him, and he said, mate, you're going great. Like, you should be confident, and help me with how to negotiate, and because I was doing my own stuff. And I still ring him with any negotiation. But he's, I think he saw something in me probably that others didn't, which was good.
What was at the time, what was your relationship with Brian Smith? Because, Brian Smith's got a different way of dealing with people. He gets results, but it can backfire on him afterwards.
I would say Brian Smith, close to the most talented coach I've ever had, smartest coach I've ever had, but he got in his own way. Yeah. I think in terms of premierships and success at that to get to the next level, which I feel sorry for him because he deserved the premiership. And we nearly got him one. Parramatta nearly got him one. He's had a few, but
St. George,
so smart, like miles ahead of the game, but just almost too smart and overcomplicated to a degree of just the way he delivered to certain players. And, he'd message guys the night before and tell them they were out when they thought they'd trained all week and they were in, and their families had flown from, interstate to watch them and stuff. Like, mate, like little things like that wear players down and players talk. And then once you lose that kind of bit of respect, and because that's why Wayne and Trent Robinson and Bellamy are so good, is because they are great men and communicators, and they're brutally honest, I would imagine. I haven't played under all of them, but they're the man's man, and they value the relationship. Like, it's like, if you're a boss of any organisation, any business, if you can tap into to the client, to the employer, into the player, and they feel like you really care about them, then you're going to perform better. Because it's not only you're doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for your coach. And I think that's where that separated sort of Brian from them, because Brian had the ability to be like these guys, because he's the smartest coach I've had. I think he is the smartest coach I've had. Like the game plan, specific game plans to execute and to, I suppose, expose other teams' vulnerabilities. He would go to games 2 or 3 weeks in advance and watch the team we're going to play in 2 or 3 weeks at the game. He'd watch their game, sit behind the post, and he'd come up with a game plan a week or two ahead of the game.
Wow.
Like every week. And Trent Robinson was his understudy. So what Robbo did, he learnt all of that from Brian
Smith.
But I reckon he took the little negatives probably and ingrained his own magic dust, Robbo, and he's formed the coach he is today. But Robbo actually would have learned so much from Brian, and I would say Brian's got a lot to do with Robbo's success.
Yeah.
But Robbo was, I suppose, smart enough, because he was our assistant in 2010 when we made the grand final. Me and Robbo were like this, actually, very close, and I rated him then. And they let him go, and I said, you shouldn't be letting him go. And he come straight back, won the comp in his first year.
Yeah.
But he had the communication and the respect between the players, but he also had the nous that Brian had and the smarts.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so good.
So and that makes a huge difference. And look, you went back to this one thing, and it's funny because I was helping this client, and I said, "You done this amazing transformation." I go, "What was it?" He goes, "You believed in me." And sometimes we don't realise the power of belief. And I think you're right. Like even at times, like I get in my own way because I go, if I don't give enough time to this team member and I don't tell him I believe in him, I go, I'm going to lose him.
Yeah.
And it's so important to reinforce that belief more than once, because once sometimes is enough, because it's like you're as good as your last game, right? So it's good to know, hey, this is where you perform. This is where you can perform better. You know, I want to give you a chance this week, but mate, if we can't get it to this level, I can't keep doing it. But I'm going to tell you what you got to go work back on.
That's right. It's hard to do, to get to everyone. And
yes,
it's hard to do.
And
right?
it is. That's the hard part.
You know that, right?
It is, yeah.
It's hard to do, but it's a relationship that really, I think, it's gonna make you better, right? If you can do it and you can form that trust and that relationship with your employer or your player, you're going to benefit from it, you know. But it's not easy, you know. It's not easy because you're time poor as well, right?
Let me ask you a question. Is it that sometimes the head coach, the trust in the assistant coach, like do they feel like, hey, this guy might take my job if I trust him too much?
You have to trust him.
You have to, but in Brian Smith's instance, do you think he couldn't let go? He couldn't let go as much?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Like, I think he had a good dynamic there with Robbo. He trusted him. He didn't think he was taking his job. We've seen it. Well, we saw it with the South, you know, with Demetrio and Semi Burgess.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's really important who you get as an assistant coach, because you don't want to be looking over your shoulders.
Yeah.
But in saying that, if you are comfortable in your role and confident as the head coach, you shouldn't be looking over your shoulders anyway, and you should really be taking anything on board from those who are going to help you.
Yeah.
And even take pressure off you. And that's where Wayne's so good. He gets it right every time. He's got the right assistant who looks after the technical side of things, the strategy, and he really focuses on game day, man management, making sure the players are up at the right time and they're making sure they're all happy.
Because there's 30 players.
Yeah.
You've got a whole week to get through and get to 30 players. It's not easy.
You need your assistant.
You need your assistants. So then if your assistants obviously is coming up a game plan, you're a good man manager, that's going to make a massive difference in the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got a lot of slack for not getting Cameron Munster to the Dolphins from Wayne.
Yeah.
Did Wayne ever reach out to you?
Because I respect Wayne so much, I've got to be careful what I say. If I told the truth, which I don't really care.
Yeah.
So I'll tell it how it was. So Wayne, we go back because do you remember the Grappa incident? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I'll quickly
there.
touch on it. So he got
that was during COVID, right? Yeah.
So during COVID, he wasn't supposed to leave the team environment, let alone go to a restaurant. And I had Lachlan Elias there, who was only a kid at the time, and we were celebrating a deal that he'd done with South, and Wayne was the coach.
Yeah.
And Lockie wasn't in the full-time squad, so he was allowed to leave. He wasn't in the bubble. So he came, we met with Lockie at Grappa. Anyway, Wayne walks in to Grappa with his missus and some other bloke, and I'm thinking, why the fuck is he here? And it's a full restaurant. And I know, mate, I know the security guards, I know all these guys I knew were there. They were on the scotches.
Yeah.
And the restaurant was full, and Wayne's sitting facing the whole restaurant. And I looked at Lockie's dad and I said, this is not good. I said, I'll tell you why it's not good. I said, because he's walking in now, he shouldn't be here. He's seen me, which he comes straight over to. We shook hands, how you going, Lockie, all this. And he went back and said, I said, someone's going to dob him in and he's going to think it's me because I'm the only one he knows. Yeah. I said, I'm telling you, and I work at Fox. Yeah. I said, this is not good. So Wayne has his lunch and he's at the end of it, the waiter comes up to me, says, mate, Wayne's waiting. Wayne wants to see you. So I'm like, oh, what's happening? It's happening. I go out and Wayne's like, listen, mate, I'm not supposed to be here. I said, I know you're not. I said, I'm not going to say a word. That's anyone who knows me, mate, cross my heart. But I said, mate, there's a lot of people here. I'm just telling you, I will not say a word. Anyway, I'm sitting at lunch. No word of a lie. 15 minutes later, Buzz Rothfield.
Wow.
15 minutes, as I'm sitting there still having lunch, and I'm looking at my phone going, oh no. So I ring Sammy B up because I was looking after Sammy at the time. I said, mate, can you ring Wayne for me? Buzz is ringing me. I said, mate, they're on to him already. I said, this is what's happened. Blah, blah. Sammy goes, sweet lad, I'll call him. So he calls him. Buzz just relentlessly called me for 24 hours. He knew, you know, and the next morning I answered it and he goes, Braith. How you going, buddy? And I'm like, what do you want, Buzz? Like I knew it. And he goes, were you at Grappa yesterday? And I said, Buzz, I just said to him, I don't want nothing to do with this. Yeah. Don't ask me any questions. I said, see you later. And that was it. Anyway, it comes out, Wayne's at Grappa. He got in trouble over it. Blah, blah. I tried to call him. Wouldn't answer the phone. He told South and media outlets that it was me. And he just sort of tried to palm this off to me like it was he threw me under a bus. Yeah. And I love like I've only ever looked up to Wayne. Didn't know him that well because I never played under it. But it was disappointing. And he just took no ownership for it. And no one's going to give a fuck about me because Wayne's the king, right? So I didn't make a big deal out of it. I just let it go. But deep down I was like, come on, mate. Like that, you know, at least take a phone call from me and man up. You wouldn't even man up on the phone. Anyway, this is why it gets better. Yeah. Fast forward a few years, I've got Cameron Munster and Wayne's the coach of the Dolphins and he wants Cameron and he has to go through me. So I'm like, oh, okay. Now you want to talk to me, Wayne. But no, we actually didn't do any of the negotiations, me and Wayne. So it was through Peter O'Sullivan, who I was really close with. He was at the Roosters recruitment. But it was all Wayne, Peter, me, and it was weird because Wayne had, you know, he had to be the proud, you know, man who was, you know, was in the right, and I was, you know, tried to. In no point did he say sorry or mate, I was in the wrong or you know, I should have took your calls. He you know, he's obviously very stubborn, but so I didn't care. I still wanted to. That was irrelevant. The main thing was to get the deal done for Cameron. So Cameron, in the end, because they wanted him so much and they needed a marquee player, and you know, they offered him nearly, I'd say, $6 million over 4 years. Yeah, which was the biggest. It would have been the biggest. I would have executed the biggest deal in the history of the game, and I've only just a new agent, right? Yeah. But that, you know, again, you know, and I said to Cameron, I said, mate, these are your options. It was like $2 million more than Melbourne, I'd say minimum, over the period of time. I said, you've won your comps at Melbourne. You know, I said, you've got the opportunity here for you at the Dolphins is crazy because not only are you going to be the player, the captain, you're the king of Queensland really with his origin already. I said, you're going to be that marketable. You're going to get your off-field endorsements are going to be through the roof. I said, mate, I've locked you up. I actually had a coaching job for him straight after. I had him an unreal car. I had him. I couldn't have done a bigger, better deal for him. And Melbourne weren't coming to the party either, which he wasn't happy with. And they'd re-signed other players and prioritised them in front of him. So I'm thinking, he's not going to stay in Melbourne, you know. Anyway, he was procrastinating all year. And I said, mate, I'm sick of this. At the end of the year, you need to make a call. I mean, we're copping bullets here. I can't get you a better deal anywhere in the world. I said, you know, it's up to you now. I respect you and your decision. So I said, mate, come and meet me down in Coogee. And he hadn't had a drink all year either because he was off the drink all year.
Yeah.
I said, we'll have a few drinks together. We'll get this deal done. So I took him to Mimi's over here. Anyway, we had a nice lunch. He's had a few drinks. And he's like, mate, I'm going to the Dolphins. I said, are you sure? And he goes, yep, it's too good of a deal. I got to set my family up. I need to work again. You know, it's a good opportunity, all that. I said, okay. I said, I'll wait and ring Wayne tomorrow. I'll ring you tomorrow, or Peter O'Sullivan. He goes, sweet. So he goes, I said, he was adamant, I'm going. So we just had the night. And then he flew back first thing in the morning. In the afternoon, lucky I didn't call Wayne earlier. Because I was going to call him around lunchtime, and I thought I'll just let it go till the afternoon. He gets back and he rings me. He goes, Braith. I go, what? And he goes, nah. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I don't know. I said, mate, wow. I've just flown you to Sydney. So he was unsure again. And then he was gone. But then lucky I didn't call because that would have made my job harder, or I don't know if he may have even just stuck with that decision. I don't know. But it was interesting. And then Melbourne kind of come to the party a bit more. And then after the grand final, he rang me and Penrith won. I think it was the first year. It would have been, or second year. Or whatever it was. And because he still hadn't made a decision, he rings me straight after the grand final. He goes, I want to stay in Melbourne. I want to win comps. And I kind of thought to myself, I love the attitude, but are you sure they're going to win comps too? Like, you know, I said, because I have to tell him everything.
Yeah.
I love the fact he's being loyal, and I want him to be happy. Happiness is the most important thing. I've seen Tyron say that last week because he does a great job with his guys. And at the end of the day, money isn't everything, and you've got to be happy. And I know that when the happier you are, the better you play. You know, similar to what Tyron was saying. So, but I've still got to give him every scenario. I said, mate, you can retire. Like you will have no pressure. I said, you make the finals at the Dolphins, you're a hero. You don't win a comp at Melbourne, you failed. Yeah. I said, so they're totally different. You can, but respect. He goes, fuck no, I want to win comps and our best chances here, and I love Melbourne and I want to stay in Melbourne. I said, are you sure? And he's like, yep. And I said, I'm going to ring Matt Tripp right now, the owner of Melbourne. And he goes, ring him. And that was it. So he took a few million less. And he just loyalty was over money.
I guess being there with Craig Bellamy for that long,
that was a big.
That was a huge thing, right? So that would have been massive.
Even then, mate,
but he could be gone too, right?
And I tried to say that to Cameron. I said, mate, he could be gone, and I think he's on again next year, which is good. But he was nearly gone.
That's
he was nearly gone. I'm like, mate, you do not know if Craig, because Craig hadn't locked in either. I said, mate, you can sign this, and Craig could be gone next year. Yeah. But he's still, mate, he's stuck solid.
But even at that point, like if you look at it, if Craig doesn't have the best 2024, you know, he looks like he's towards the end of it anyway.
Melbourne have got
so it's a big risk. It's a big risk.
Challenge. Yeah. I'm not sure. You know, Cameron still believes in them immensely because he's a freak. Like he is
a freak.
But he just hates losing. Will do anything to win and prioritises the team and loves Melbourne. He still thinks they can win. My opinion is they're in a bit of trouble. They're definitely a trend. They're a few forward short. Their forward packs, you know, they've got the spine, but the spine only play off the back of the forwards, right? And the forwards are 2 or 3 short of premiership forwards. Like they're not even close to Penrith or Brisbane. You know, so that's the challenge for them.
Well, I think I look if I look at it, you know, without any bias or anything like that. I'm not biased to them anyway. More biased to Manly, but they're terrible. Yeah. But
let's not go here.
But yeah, I know. Every time I look here, I go, fuck, I don't want to talk about Manly. But if you look, Melbourne's not bringing the type of players they used to bring through. You know, if you look at, you know, years gone by, they were bringing these superstars through. Yeah. It seems like they are at points. Yeah. But it seems to be taking a lot longer. Yeah. I don't know if it's the distribution of more teams, you know, the pool of where players, you know, recruitment, you know, is taking players from. Yeah. But they were producing superstar after superstar after superstar. They're not doing that anymore. Yeah. And usually they don't go out and buy any big players. They buy fringe players, but they're not getting the ones that they used to come through.
They showed that because they tried to get Big Tino this year from the Gold Coast. Yeah. He was in Melbourne a few years back. But that's what they need. But that shows that they've actually got to look for the big names now to sign, which you're right. You know, they've kind of brought you know, the Christian Welshes and those guys through. They're not going to win your premierships. Yeah. They prioritised their spine and spent a lot of money on it. Rightly so. Have a look at it. But again, they're just, I think they're producing players, but not to the same level. Like Fa'alongo, that young kid, he's a gun. But it's producing that, like, even their outside backs have done well. I think they can be better. He fell away. What's his name? I've had a memory. Justin
Holland. Yeah, Justin.
He had a bad year, which hurt them because Remus has had a good year and he's done well for Melbourne since he's been there. But they're just a bit short in outside backs and forwards. And I don't know if it comes down to development or if they're dropping the ball not where they needed to be, or it's just that they've kind of prioritised too much money into a certain area and taken their eyes off, the forwards and
which can happen, right?
Engine room.
Like things get tired. You get tired. Like as a club, it's not easy to keep regenerating.
Well, they didn't want to let go of Harry Grant, Pappenhausen, Hughes, or Munster.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So massive highlights in your career, obviously. What have been some of the biggest highlights? Obviously, you played for New South Wales, Australia, won at the Bulldogs. Are they all highlights where you're sort of like pinching yourself when you won the premiership, when you represented Australia, when you represented New South Wales? Take me through what it was like for each of those.
All right, I'll start with Australia because that was my first. I got picked when I was 19 to tour, and got Rookie of the Year. So it was crazy. It was like just all over, like I was a kid into the papers and all over the news, and then making Australia and travelling on a kangaroo tour with Brad Fittler and Darren Lockyer and Andrew Johns and
all your heroes.
2 years earlier, I'm watching TV at home like they were my favourite players, and then 2 years later, I'm playing against England with them. Yeah. It was crazy. So that was surreal, and that I cherish it more now because I played 4 Test matches and didn't get back there, So at the time, I thought I'd play a lot more, obviously. So now you cherish it more once you're sort of retired. But New South Wales was crazy. Like it's such an intense. It's the pinnacle. It is so fast. It is physically so demanding, mentally so demanding. The whole nation pretty much stops for it. You know that because you've grown up with it, and all you've ever wanted to do is play for New South Wales. Really, that's it. And you put the sky blue on. You drive into the game through Caxton Street at Suncorp Stadium, and the fans are trying to, throw the bus over, throwing shit at the bus, and you just love it. Like it's you just go, and it's surreal. Like you're a young guy going, is this really happening? And then you even run out in the field, you can't hear anything. It's a capacity crowd, and you've got to execute a game plan under pressure. It's just like, wow, But like for me, the highlight, we won the series in 2005, and I played with Andrew Johns, who I think is the best player ever that I've ever played with. And just watching him play, it was like a game of chess. He was 2 or 3 steps ahead of everyone, and he just manipulated the opposition and just set them up. Look one way, go back to the other. Look one way, go back to the other. Then go back to there. Like it was a masterclass, and he was a genius. And I was 5'8", he was half, and I just went along for the ride. And he made me look good, and it was a great series. That was the highlight, like just playing with him and winning an Origin series, and yeah, that was huge. But the biggest one of all is winning a premiership. Yeah, because
especially after what you went through.
Yeah, after what you went through, but it is the pinnacle because you live and die with these guys. Like this, you go into battle like every week, and we'd been together for quite a long period of time, and we'd been through such emotional highs and lows, and we were just expected to win too at some point because we had such a really good team, and we loved each other, and it was a close game against the Roosters, 16-13, and went right down to the last play. But to just, even your family, like your friends and family who have been through everything with you, because they all go through the journey with you. They all ride the emotions, and they sacrifice as well. They come to games all over the state, country, and they're your loyal supporters. They're with you when no one else is. They see your darkest times, they see your greatest times, and you do it for them. As when you sit in the national anthem and you see them, it's emotional because you're not just doing it for yourself. You've got a whole team behind you that have invested so much into you, and you want to make them proud and happy. So when you win a comp, the feeling is just
you can't
magical.
Explain it.
You can't explain it. It's just like you've just achieved everything you ever wanted to achieve. It really, there's no greater feeling apart from having kids.
Yeah, apart from having kids, you got 2, right?
Yeah, 2 girls.
I've got 2 girls as well. Yeah. There's no other love like that, right? No one can explain that.
Crazy.
That's the craziest one. Like anyone could tell you, you know, all your moments, but that's probably the biggest one as a dad.
It is.
Now, you can stay fit, right? You're doing you train every day. I look at your schedule. You're up till late. You get to work at 10:30. You're in the gym every single day.
Yeah.
I was seeing Rennie Mator today, and he's looking at me. I'm getting a coffee. I go, "What are you up to?" He goes, "Mate, fuck, I'm about to have a workout with Braith." He goes, "I don't want to go, Mets." You train hard. Is it something that you go, "Hey, this is what I've got to stick to after my rugby league career. This is important for me because if I'm not fit, if I'm not feeling physically good, I can't perform at my best."
It's not just the physical thing. I think it's more importantly the
mental.
The mental. If I'm looking good and feeling good, I'm more productive and I'm happier, I'm healthier, and I give more to my kids and I give more to my work and I put the time in and I'm bouncing around and it all snowballs. It coincides with each other. Because when I retired, I still was extremely fit. I was in here every day for forever. When COVID hit, I know it's been an excuse for people, but it certainly hit me because I had newborn. I was working still, and I couldn't quite train. I got out of routine, and I was eating shit, drinking, and I put on probably 12 kilos within a sort of 2 or 3 year period. And just I knew I looked shit, I felt shit, didn't like what I saw in the mirror, and I felt like mentally it hit me, like I wasn't the person I wanted to be, and that's a hard thing to kind of. Because I've always been disciplined, and you know that, and I've always trained hard, and it's always been a ritual of mine. And I dropped the ball, and I was disappointed in myself. So, 18 months ago, I'm like, bang, let's get back to it. Started slow, in here every day. I've started a program, Strong Dad.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. How's that going?
It's going really good. We're about to launch the next program, and we're going to do a podcast style, but it's really focusing on men.
Yeah.
And because of what I just said, like a lot of guys, they don't talk, right?
That's right.
And a lot of us kind of go through those moments by ourselves and are too proud to sort of let people know you're struggling or you need a bit of help, just even with mindset and just tools like you do with your clients. It's not always about the physical side of things. It's even just the interaction at the gym.
Yeah.
With just getting stuff off your chest. I feel like when I train with all the boys and a group and you create that community, you tend up getting a bit deeper and talking about life more than what you would if you're doing it by yourself where you weren't creating that environment.
100%.
So you'll say things, you get something off your chest you wouldn't probably usually do, and you feel more comfortable if you hear other guys that are more vulnerable, right? Yeah. So we just wanted to create that sort of feel, and that organically kind of happened, and now it's really good. But I split it up. I do the Strong Dad stuff, and I come in here. I normally do both a day.
Yeah.
I'm up at 5, done with the Strong Dad by 6:37. And I'll come here on the way back, or I'll come back during the day. I try and beat the rush in here because it gets busy in the morning. So, I've got the time there. I can I don't start my day really till 10:30. Drop the girls to school. I can get in and around it. And at the moment, I've got a bit of time, so I can come in whenever. So but now because we're in Coogee, I do the run, walk, whatever. Yeah. It's a great spot to do all that. But mate, but I'm in here nearly every day, and it's just part of my routine.
Yeah. Do you think helping your community, it's something important to you where you're giving value back of what you learned in sport and what the resilience it's built with you and what you go through with the footy show? You can talk from a lot of experience, right?
It's like I want to. You can be someone's hindsight, like you don't want to have regrets, and we all going to make mistakes, right? But if I can get ahead and help someone, with their preparation or mindset or, as I said, I went back to it earlier. I think the biggest thing in life is having tools and ways to handle loss or defeat or setbacks.
Yep.
If you look at life at the moment, the interest rates, cost of living, separation rates, they're all up. They're all huge. Crazy through the roof. Yeah. So the reality is, at some point, one of us is going to have to deal with any of those things, right? So how do you deal with it? Do you, like I said, do you curl up in a ball? Do you feel sorry for yourself? Do you look at the negatives, or you just go, all right, what are the positives? What can I do? What makes me better? What makes me perform better? How am I going to earn more money? How am I going to look better? How am I going to, like I said, there's prioritizing your time. You do that with all your programs as well. It's so we've all got time.
Yeah.
We can all sit around and say we don't, but you can fucking make time.
Yeah, you can.
You know, that's just an example. But there's so much more advice you can give to people that you've lived and, you know, can help.
Yeah, look, I think everything comes back to process. I go to myself, I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to do, you know, A, B, and C. I'm going to make sure I do my training right. I make sure I get my eating right because that's going to prepare me for what's to come ahead. And I was the same as you during COVID. I let myself go. The gym was closed for 7 months. I was the front news of the paper. I was 2GB for fucking marching for the lockdowns. They got me on a technicality, but I had to cop it on the chin. And, you know, in hindsight, I think that was the best thing for me. I remember there was only 4 of us working at the time because we only had 4 staff. I was one of them. I had police knocking on my door every single day. I said, mate, when are you going to let me go? And then I had to go to the, you know, police station and I go, mate, what's going on here? And he goes, well, someone doesn't like you. I said, fucking hell.
Politics,
was it? Well, it was. It was definitely that.
But see, has it made you better from that?
Mate, I remember members were coming in. I was doing every shift, 7 days a week. I only had 3 staff. One guy comes up to me and he goes, mate, are you okay? I'm going, yeah, what do you mean? I'm here, aren't I? He goes, no, but you're getting beaten up everywhere on the social media platforms. And I go, mate, and at the time, I'll be honest with Braith, I wasn't reading anything. I said, F everything. It was tough. I'm not going to say it wasn't tough. You know, you're coming back from a closure of over 7 months.
It's crazy.
You know, and it's hard. But in hindsight, when I look back at it, I go, that was the best thing. It built me back better. It made me trust myself more self-belief. Initially at the start, you're like, fuck, man, how am I going to get through this? And I think that's what a lot of men need, people like yourself, where you've gone through the battles. You've built the battle scars. You know what I mean? You've got the calluses that you had to go through, and they need individuals that actually went through it, not people that didn't go through it. And, you know,
I think the more stories you hear as men of other guys going through tough times, it makes you feel like you're not alone and you're normal, you know. And that's the stigma around guys, is that there's always going to be struggles. It's a challenge. Life is a challenge. Kids, family, wives, you know, houses, mortgages, cars. You know, it's going to be a challenge. But we're all going through it, and we're all here to help each other.
100%.
And the more you just talk about that sort of stuff, I think it just puts people at ease a bit more. And, you know, lessens anxiety and all that sort of things, which is what I've learned a lot. You know, dealing with players going through my career, but also post-football with work and even this Strong Dad program. Is, you know, there's a lot of guys that need help and want help, and that's what we're here for, right? And even the gym and all that. It's a great, the best thing for your mind is the gym.
Gym, 100%. Well, mate, thanks a lot. I mean, people can find you everywhere. They can find you on Fox League, Strong Dad, you know, Coogee, the streets, social media. What's your social media handle? Just Braith Anasta. Just hit Braith Anasta.
I'm not good with all that stuff.
But
Braith Anasta.
Braith Anasta, But mate, you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you for coming. You know, I sent you the questions. You said, Mets, no holds barred. Go for it, mate. Let's just go for it and let's rip it and hopefully I think we gave a lot of people a lot of value about resilience, strength, coming back from adversity, all the things that are important, especially for people doing your program. And I just want to thank you for it.
On your Mets.
Thanks a lot, brother.
Pleasure, mate.
Thank you.